want to identify. The other assurance I want to give to leaders is this: despite the prevailing sense of insanity that you see being evidenced within the church in its current form, the purpose of God has not missed a single beat. It is still very much on course, very much on time. When Jesus said, I will build my ecclesia, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, despite the pyramidic forms, despite the ecclesiastical forms, despite man's gravitation to titles and offices, etc., the purpose of God continues to move across the earth like a hot knife through butter. And so don't lose heart. Don't feel as though this thing is about to derail into a failed dawn. This thing is moving dynamically to one powerful conclusion, which is a church victorious and all the kingdoms of this world being assigned to the kingdom of his God and of his Christ. At the end of this whole process, God wins. And that's how this thing will go at the end of it all. To get back into some of the critical questions that you've asked in terms of church and kingdom, let me again pull this thing back into another realm. When Jesus said, I will build my church, a lot of what passes for church today is completely contrary to what Jesus said he wants to build. What we have today is a puerile, punitive, complete distortion of what God initially intended. Sorry to say that to some of you persons who are looking at this, but this could very well be a very disruptive conversation, because a lot of what passes for church is what I describe as an anti-God model that is more Babylonian in its form and less kingdom in its operation. Church in its current form is a clear and present danger to anything that God wants to do on this planet, because it is too religious. It is too concerned about non-essentials. It is too fixated on money. In most places, church is nothing more than an economic model. It is designed to sustain a few at the top and less concerned about the people that are being gathered and pointed to a place of power. During this current COVID-19, a lot of things were exposed. It is sad that in the middle of a global pandemic, some leaders are more concerned about their personal needs, about maintaining the building and making sure the rent is paid, while people's lives are literally falling apart. Which and how many leaders were more concerned about those members that are left high and dry in the midst of a severe pandemic where families were lost, jobs were lost, economic fallout, etc.? The church in its current form has to literally reinvent itself. We have to hit that restart button in order for us to really begin to effect and bring some level of kingdom influence upon the planet. Now listen to this. Jesus said, I will build my ecclesia, not this current form. As a matter of fact, Jesus was not fixated on building a church as we know it. As a matter of fact, the word church and the concept of church as we know it did not come into our vocabulary until about 170 AD. It did not exist. When Jesus said, I will build my church, that word did not exist. The word that was used that is inside of our translation is a word that erupts out of the German language called Kirche, out of which you get the word circus or circle. What passes for church today in the etymology of the word, the original word for church is the very same word from which you get a circus or a circle. Put it another way, exactly what church is today is nothing more than a circus going around in a circle, going nowhere. When Jesus said, I will build my ecclesia, that's an entirely different entity altogether. Church is not what he wanted. He wanted ecclesia. Even the original translators, they did us a disservice because they insisted, even the King James translators, they insisted that the word assembly should be removed and replaced with an ecclesiastical model that we still use today called church. The word ecclesia is a different entity. Jesus did not say, I will build my church. He said, I'll build my ecclesia. And the word ecclesia is a serious entity.